Danny Shortridge. I'm from Mooresburg, Tennessee. I've built engines for the last 60 years. I've won the World Championship 3 times in IHRA Superstock. I won the Daytona 500 in 94 and 95 with Sterling Marlin driving, and I done the engines. I have 52 world records under my belt. We've built hundreds of drag cars, a few round track cars, but we try to stick with the street rods and the drag cars. I know there's a lot of people out there that wonder where the old guys have gone. So anything that any of you people out there that need engines, transmissions, rear ends, and need the knowledge that I have, you know, I'll be glad to share it with you. I'll be glad to help you with issues and problems. You know, we build and sell a lot of Paraglide transmissions, a lot of 400s, a lot of 350s, and we enjoy doing it, and we enjoy good customers. We don't need no bad ones, but we also don't run into many bad ones. But if you need any help, just give us a call at 865-719-3312, and we'll be happy to help you. We do the best work at Shortridge Engines than anybody I personally know. We're right now doing a car for an old friend of mine. It's a beautiful GTO. We're doing, you know, a good cage in it and doing him about 700 horsepower. And we're leaving it with a 12-bolt C-clip eliminator rear end and Paraglide transmission with a 6,000 converter. And we'll have it done here probably in another 2 or 3 weeks. And I'm sure y'all will look forward to an update on the car and how good we're doing with it, and then what the first passes produce on the dyno. Watch out on YouTube, and keep updated, and thank you for listening. Here's your rods and pistons. That's a very odd set, Lanati Taylor. I worked for them the first day they opened the plant. That's a beautiful piston. That's almost a duplicate of JE, but a little better than JE.
What is this?
Lanati Taylor, and I work for both companies.
So we got a 430 over, right?
Yeah, this is 30 over. It's a real special block. Takes special rear main seal, takes a special set of bearings that you've never seen before in your life. See how big it is?
Yeah.
How heavy?
Very. That'll weigh as much as 4 bearings.
That's right.
Man.
The other thing is almost $500 for that set of bearings. But the thing about it is when I'm fixing to put 2 bearings in it, put the crank in, snap 2 caps down on it, and that'll have my crank kind of locked in place. And then I'll start with that piston, that'll go in number 3 cylinder. I'll put it in number 3 and rotate it. And then I'll cut this side of the block out, then I'll cut the bottom of one side or the other out. Then when I get that cut out, then I'll take that piston and put it in whichever hole that the intake valve is supposed to be at, or the exhaust valve. And then I'll cut that cylinder. So it'll probably work in 4 cylinders.
Wow.
And then I'll get another piston opposite of that and do the other 4 cylinders. And you have to cut that. You see where the factory notched this block right there? Mm-hmm. Now that has to also be re-notched, and then the pan rail cut out. And then that lets the stroke of the crankshaft turn the rods over without hitting the block. And if you don't, it's going to knock pieces out of the bottom, and then eventually, a day or two, it's going to tear it up, you know. So it takes right here is going to be about, probably about 16 hours of just grinding. And I had to get myself to this position to ever be ready to. And so now it's really coming out super good. And we got a real super nice set of pistons. Of course, I don't have the pins in the side of it because I'll have to take it back apart. And then the rods are a lightweight set of 5.7 Eagle rods, and they are a super rod. I've turned them 8,500 many times and never have no issues, you know. So I think your crankshaft is sitting, I guess, in there. Yeah. And the crankshaft is a very special piece on this engine. I'd never seen them do this to one of these factory cranks that's internally balanced. The seals, cut places, that is factory, that's not me. And then of course, when I got ready, then everything spun about 3,000 RPMs and showed that we had a problem right there. And so now that won't look like that when I get done, but it'll look more like this up here. But I have to take a green grinder with one of them sand disc pads, you know, and go over it, make it pretty. But that's got two pieces, about $300 worth of Mallory in it. And even after we paid the big money for the crank, they missed it. Missed it. 42 grams.
Wow.
42 grams.
Wow.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
And I knowed it would cause us trouble, so I got us a brand new flywheel laying right there, and I put it on the end of it, and it showed it to be out like 30 grams on the flywheel. I said, that's impossible. That's a neutral balance zero flywheel, so there's something wrong here. So I kept adding putty to it, just like we used to play with when we were kids, and the thing started coming around, 42, 38, 27, right on down, you know. And I said, well, I got to figure this out. So I took a piece of Mallory, and it's almost impossible to cut it. And I cut a piece of Mallory, and it was 27 grams, and I dropped it down in one of the holes that the factory had made. And I said, bam, man, that thing come down like 18 grams, you know. I said, let's take the other half of that, put it in there. And I did, and put it in there, and I took that putty and pushed it down in there to keep it from slinging it out at 3,000 RPMs. Well, after I got done doing that, it come down to like 4 grams. I said, okay, now I take my putty all out, and I clean everything up with a lacquer thinner to where the weld will work, and I weld the Mallory in the crankshaft, and the added wire weight made up the 4 grams. Wow. And it come out perfect even on the top of the crank.
Wow.
And I don't have to do nothing but just smooth it off, you know. So it was really cool.
Good deal. All right.
And
would you have thought that?
Your rings are in the Engine Works box. They are a special set of rings that are for what we're doing. You can race them, or you can drive it on the street. And you can tell it's an old Hastings ring because the way it's made. I mean, I've put 1,000 sets of them in, so.
I used to sell Hastings rings.
Well,
yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
There's
yeah.
the best.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I do. I built that motor right there. I put Hastings oil ring in it and put seal powered top rings.
Well, I'll be darned.
Yeah, I mean, I just absolutely am against. Ain't nobody got an oil ring like Hastings. Okay, now this, as you can see, is a -12 Brodex head casting. I come up on this cylinder head and decided I'd try to make something that nobody else can make. Nobody I've ever found in 60 years of doing this have I ever seen anything close. And most of them will flow around 200 285 to 290 CFMs on the intake, and about 72% on the exhaust. But on this head, I decided to do some tricks that I'd done on small block Fords for Holly. I decided, since this was my friend that I was doing it for anyhow, I decided just to turn myself loose, and if I run them, then I would throw them over in the corner and start over with another set of different heads. So as I got started, all of a sudden, I picked that intake port up and it started flowing, and it just kept flowing, and turned out like 317 CFMs. And I said, well, if I work on 4 places in this chamber and this runner, I think I know where the air's wanting to go. As I kept doing it, the next flow on a SF Superflow 600, the best money can buy, it flowed 332 CFMs at 700 lift. So I said, well, I'm just going to go back to them 4 places and keep working. That was another day went by. So the next day I come in and worked on them, and it went up to 342. Now that was better than I got in 2005. That was better than I got on the 18-degree NASCAR stuff I was doing, and it was as good as the first SB2s that we started using in the NASCAR circuit.
Wow.
For Daytona, Talladega, Rockingham, wherever we was running at it back at that time. And so I said, well, I'm going to keep running on the same theory of raising the roof and shortening the short turn and flip micing the places that I'm not going to say. And it all of a sudden, it was 349. So I kept working. This is another day went by. So the next day, I got them to the max without hitting water, without having to epoxy anything up. It's a solid aluminum runner, and it flowed 357 CFM. 357.52. Yeah, that's an 800.
700 is
Yeah, 700, 346.77.
and 720 is 354.
Randy told me yesterday, he said, well, now you know this car can't run no quicker than a 639, and I about fell on the floor out there. I said, wait a minute, you talking about 5s or 6s? And he said 6s. I said, well, we have to slow up and down.
Oh, God.
And I done told him we have to put wheelie bars on it. That, I mean, ain't no way out of it. Ain't no way out of it. I'm telling you, you get killed. I ain't gonna have the boy killed over my stupidity not putting them on.
that's it for this video update on the GTO build. I really like what I'm seeing. It's progressing really well. I like how they're taking their time with the car and doing it right, and how Danny's taking the time to handwork all these different engine components and parts, and we're getting the max horsepower possible. So I really like what I'm seeing. Going to be really interested to see what our final numbers on the dyno will be, so stay with us and we'll find that out.